Diabolical priorities. Republicans planning to make the poor pay for President Donald Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy. What's really behind this regressive cockamamie plan, and can Democrats do anything to stop it? Welcome to the No Spin Zone. Graphs Grievances starts right now. Key to President Donald Trump's electoral success, both in 2016 and 2024, was his ability to convince working-class voters that he would be a champion for them and their priorities. Before Trump entered the political arena, the Republican Party was defined by Ronald Reagan's famous three-legged stool, a coalition of fiscal conservatives, social conservatives, and foreign policy hawks. And while an alliance of these groups led the GOP to national electoral success in the 1990s with Reagan and Herbert Walker Bush, and then again in the early 2000s with George W. Bush, starting in 2008, this coalition stopped delivering for Republicans. Despite Mitt Romney and John McCain running for president as fiscal conservatives and foreign policy hawks, while doing their best to reach out to the religious right, they both lost to Democrat Barack Obama. These back-to-back losses using the previously very successful Reagan formula, aggravating the Republican base and making the grand old party extremely vulnerable to an upset. And this is how Donald Trump, a twice-divorced Manhattan Playboy billionaire and former Democrat, was able to quickly rise to prominence in the Republican Party. Despite Trump not representing any of the positions that had defined the GOP for almost 4 decades, he brought new energy and, most importantly, new voters into the Republican fold. And he did this by championing the working class, railing against the elite in both parties, and criticizing traditional U.S. foreign policy that focused on America meddling extensively in overseas conflicts. Regardless of what you or I may think of Trump's phony populism, it resonated with a wide swath of voters who never before considered voting for a Republican. In 2016, Trump made enormous gains among white voters without a college degree, including in northern states where Democrats typically dominated. And this past year, Trump held on to those gains and picked up more support among young Black, Hispanic, and Asian voters that were until now core to the Democrats' base. But perhaps most impressively, Trump reduced the partisan gap between white and non-white voters to its smallest difference since the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, meaning race is becoming less and less significant in determining how Americans will vote. Trump's ability to win voters making less than $100,000 a year, including those making less than $50,000 a year, while simultaneously making gains with racial minorities, has come at a devastating cost to Democrats, who have long prided themselves on being the party of the working class, young people, secular, and non-white voters. In 2016, Democrat Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote, but losing the all-important Electoral College to Trump. While this past year, things were far more bleak for Democrats, with Kamala Harris losing not only the Electoral College to Trump, but becoming the first Democrat to lose the popular vote in 20 years. Yet despite this political realignment with poor and working class voters overwhelmingly shifting from Democrats to Trump, Republicans in Congress appear intent on stabbing this key constituency in the back in order to pay for massive new tax cuts for the wealthy that are expected to cost the United States around $5 trillion. $5 trillion. Congressional Republicans are now proposing a $2.3 trillion cut to Medicaid, the government program that provides free and low-cost healthcare coverage to low-income Americans, people with disabilities, and their families. In addition, Republicans are targeting the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as SNAP, for $274 billion in cuts, meaning it will be much harder for low-income Americans to buy the food they need to survive. This Republican push to offset the cost of tax cuts for the wealthy by cutting health care and food assistance programs for the poor and working class Americans highlights the emptiness of Trump's brand of populism and exposes him once again as a charlatan. If Trump and his equally two-faced Vice President J.D. Vance really care about fighting for working class Americans, they would demand that congressional Republicans not balance the budget on their backs and instead find another way to pay for new tax cuts. And look, Trump has made clear he does not care about debts and deficits. He has declared bankruptcy at least 6 times. But a meaningful portion of congressional Republicans still pretend they do care. And the only thing Republicans seem to agree on is tax cuts for the rich. So perhaps, in keeping with Trump's America First anti-interventionist platform, Republicans should make a small cut to the outrageously bloated defense budget, which is rapidly approaching $1 trillion a year. Yes, $1 trillion a year on defense, 3 times what China spends on its military. Thank you for watching Graph's Grievances. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, share, and join me tomorrow for more.